In celebration of NAIDOC Week, we're really fortunate today to be speaking with Eddie Synot, who you may have seen on the drum. Eddie is an Indigenous academic researcher and public lawyer, and Sharon Mununggurr, who is from Paperbark Medicine. Thank you, Eddie and Sharon, for joining us today.
Thanks for having us, Beck. And I would just like to acknowledge the traditional owners on whose land we have met up here today. To me personally, it's a celebration of who we are as people.
NAIDOC Week for me is very much attached to its history, from organisation within Indigenous communities for a day of commemoration. So it was something based in not just mourning our people and where we come from, but very much about drawing attention to what we had to do in the activism to kind of drive that forward.
People that are not educated on what Aboriginality means, and so they make assumptions that an Aboriginal person is someone from the Northern Territory, or someone who's extremely dark-skinned and carries a spear and a dilly bag. It's really important that people understand what Aboriginality is, and that it's not at all related to skin colour. It's what you identify as.
Probably number one for me is the sense of disbelief, or, still people won't believe that, racism is an issue, or, and that comes along with a certain attitude about, if you just got a job, or if you just got educated, or if you just, so there's this kind of strong kind of disbelief and dismissal of Aboriginal experience in Australia.
I'll give an example of living in urban Brisbane, my son visiting from the Northern Territory, staying with us where we rent a home in Ashgrove, which is a popular Brisbane suburb, walking to Woolworths to get some milk and bread, and being pulled over by the police on the way home, asked what was in the bag, having to show what was in the bag, asked to remove his shoes and having them checked, following him home because they didn't believe that he was staying in Ashgrove, that we lived in Ashgrove. That's the sort of truth. So I want people to know and to be aware that if they see anger in Aboriginal communities, these are the reasons that people often don't understand what we still have to live with on a daily basis and function in the community, and get told that we're all one. Forget about your past, move forward.
Racism. We like to tell ourselves that we've removed all of the discriminatory provisions that used to be in our laws, that, we provide equal opportunity now, that, if you get into trouble with the police, you're going to be equal before the rule of law and things like that. And the, circumstance of reality tells us that's just not the case. Not many people know that Indigenous Australians have been for a long time the highest incarcerated, or by rate. Not all of the recommendations from the Royal Commission into deaths in custody have been fully implemented.
With the Black Lives Matter and why it's important, I can speak to that from a personal experience, that my kid's dad was the first death in custody for someone from northeast Arnhem Land in Australia, and it was a senseless death. He was incarcerated for taking his brother's new car for a drive, something that really only warranted a fine, but he was incarcerated, and my children are still, now as young adults, grieving his loss.
The most important thing anyone can do is be educated and take the responsibility to educate yourself as well. There are so many resources available these days that people can educate themselves and learn about these things. So it's important for everyone to be able to take responsibility first for their own education and understanding of these things, and then to be able to drive that impact more broadly than themselves. It's okay to be unsure, or to not feel comfortable, or to even feel guilty when they're, addressing issues about reconciliation and the state of reconciliation in Australia and our place as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. But the more important thing is about what you do with that and how you take responsibility yourself. We're not all responsible individually for things that have happened hundreds of years ago, but we absolutely are as a community, and they still impact us today.
I believe we can all move forward together, and we can feel good about it and feel safe to talk about it together.
Whether it's just having a chat with friends and people say things and you correct them, and being able to have better conversations with people. It's okay to feel that way, and there's, I think, an important place for us all, or a role for us all to play, and being able to change that and to change the path of reconciliation going forward.